Okay.
Okay, good morning. I want to welcome you to the Rieger garden. And we've lived here for 35 years. When we first came here, my husband Chuck watched the people grade the whole area, and in the front yard there was nothing. And what was most important to us were the trees. So we have two maples, two different kinds, actually three kinds of maples, but two are native, and we have a sweet gum tree. These are very important for the wildlife. That was important to us too, for the wildlife. What also was important to us was to have a continuous bloom in our yard. So let me show you, come on over here. This is one of the longest blooming ephemerals that you'll see, and that is the spring beauty. It comes up first, and it actually is still blooming when other things have already gone down, even the daffodils over there. One of the other things, let me show you about the continuous blooming. I'll take you around the yard and show you. We have we have a problem with deer. And so we've had to actually experiment with plants to see what the deer don't eat. So over here we have both iris that are not native, and then I have some iris here that are native. So we're experimenting to see if the deer don't like the native ones, and they don't. Coming over here under the trees, we have a problem because the trees soak up so much water. Actually, it's not a problem. You don't want the runoff, but it's a problem for growing plants under the trees. So we're experimenting with different kinds of plants. Come over here. Come on over here. This is a native plant. It's called Pacra aria, or golden ground seal, and it expands and is a nice ground cover. But the problem is the deer kind of keep nibbling on it, and so finally I've got enough growing that it's not destroying it, and I think it will grow this way. Also, as you can see, I put daffodils all over the yard, and they bloom at different times. This is called Lily of the Valley right here, and finally I've got enough growing up so the deer aren't destroying it. Come on over here. Again, we still like trees. This is a native tree. It is um, a native holly, and the birds sit up in the tree and drop the seeds, and so we've got native hollies coming up a lot. They also drop seeds from the eastern red cedar. That's a native tree also, but it takes a long time to grow, so it can be like an understory thing under this big maple. Come on over here. I really like the ephemerals that come up. This is bluebell over here, Virginia bluebell, and so it's blooming right now. So is the starflower. Behind it, you'll see a whole bunch of leaves, and those are really, really nice things that come up even earlier than the spring beauty. And those are called snowdrops, and we have a whole bank of snowdrops back there. What I'm trying to do is put so many plants in this garden that it covers up and we don't have to mulch. I want everything, all the plants, to cover up underneath the trees. Come on back here. horrible runoff problem because the houses were developed so that there was a little bit of a curve here. So we had to put down stones and then dirt, and then we put down Pachysandra, and finally this is a native fern which the deer don't touch, and it grows and multiplies very fast. So it's wonderful back here on the north side of the house. Come on back. The Pachysandra, this Pachysandra is not native. It's a Japanese version, but you can get an Allegheny spurge, which is a native Pachysandra. Come on back. One of the things I'm trying to do is encourage moss to grow up on our pathway. So come on down. This is the north side of the house. So the ferns do great and the moss does great. And unfortunately, I've had to combine native with non-native plants just to keep the deer not eating up our yard. So come on back here. Some people like to call violets an invader. I love violets. Come on down and see them. They're beautiful, and there are many colors of violets. They're yellow, they're purple, they're violet, they're striped ones, and we have about 3 or 4 different kinds of violets in our yard. They're native. This plant is an upright Japanese yew, and even though it's Japanese, the deer eat a lot of the yew, so this is providing a definition of where our property is on this side, and also just a beautiful thing to look at as you look toward the north side of our house. There are a lot of different kinds of native plants I have in here, but again, the deer eat a lot of them. This is a wild bleeding heart, and I'm hoping that we don't have as many deer this year because the National Park Service allowed some of the deer to be culled. I'm hoping the bleeding heart kind of take off this year. That's what I'm hoping. Don't move. This is a native coneflower. The coneflower that most people are used to only come up about this high. This actually grows very tall, and I'm hoping it's a cut leaf coneflower, and I'm hoping that it'll grow pretty tall and provide an area here that is like an understory of the forest. Before the deer got so numerous, we had planted some azaleas, and so we still have an understory of azaleas there. We also have some red chokeberry plants right here, and the birds really love it. We're really excited about the birds as well as the plants. I don't know whether you can hear them, but I'll be quiet for a minute so you can hear some of the birds. We have probably 4 different kinds of woodpeckers. We have a sapsucker, we've had a pileated woodpecker, we actually have some owls. We have some barred owls living in some of the trees because we have some snags left in the woods. Snags are trees that are left there on purpose so that the birds can have a place to get food. The woodpeckers and some of the other birds need they need the uh, larvae to feed their babies. Okay. I'll be quiet again so you can hear some of the birds. We have so many birds. This is over here. When my husband built the deck out, he showed the people who were moving the dirt out how he wanted it landscaped. He wanted to save the forest, but he wanted an area that was green so we could play games like some games that we love. Up here are two native trees. One's a magnolia, and this is a dogwood. The dogwood and this tree over here is that native what is I going to call it? A holly, the native holly. So he actually moved these trees from where he was building the deck so that they would live here and provide a little bit of screening from the house next door. The birds come in a lot and leave seeds that grow. Here's another dogwood, and again, the sequence of bloom is so wonderful for the birds. Some of the trees are blooming, and for the bees, because before a lot of the herbaceous plants come out, the native bees actually use the trees to get their nectar. And so I don't know whether you can see it, but there are dogwoods and also redbuds that kind of surround our property. And those are left by the birds. There are several other kind of ferns that we have. These are actually ostrich ferns that divide and protect some of the plants that we don't want the deer to get, like these azaleas right here. But we have other kind of ferns up here, and I think these are hay-scented ferns. The deer have mostly devoured most of the hay-scented ferns that are near the stream below our property, but I have several here that they've kind of left alone, I think, because we have other plants around them that they don't like. This is a Japanese holly. Of course, it's not native, but the deer don't eat that either, and it makes a nice area to walk down onto the deck. And the birds like it too, because they can kind of hide in it before they come out to the bird feeder. We have squirrels, but my husband has developed a way so the squirrels can't get on that. And this is a really nice placement of the bird feeder because they can hide among those green trees and the Japanese holly, and they can hide from the hawks, because we actually have a lot of hawks around here too because of the birds. I'm going to be quiet again so you can listen to the birds. This is so wonderful. My husband built this deck more than 30 years ago, and it's still holding up very well, except he's resurfaced the deck. The underneath part hasn't been a problem at all. Every place he put his post hole digger, he put in another post, to hold up this deck. I don't know how many posts. How many posts did you put in there? 38? Well, why don't you just tell everybody? So it's a very strong deck. There are a lot of native plants along we have 3 little ponds. And these are not ponds for, fish. They're amphibian ponds. And so when this gets filled, it comes down here. As it gets a little warmer, we have jewelweed, cardinal flower, tail, which are all native plants in there. And we also have a lot of whitewood asters that come up in the fall. Again, I used, because the deer don't eat them, the hellebores are interesting on the levels. As you can see, if you look up that way, you can see that my husband terraced everything to keep the water from washing away the soil. And in some of the neighborhood, they're awfully upset because the water is washing away all their soil. But we don't have that problem because my husband has terraced everything as we've gone down. So down here are some interesting flowers. These are, let's see, there are several different kinds of phlox that are native. This is a creeping phlox right here that will probably bloom very nicely this year. And I've got some other phlox up in the front yard. This is facing, oh, I'll be quiet while the cardinal sings. There are also several other native plants back here that, oh, they're just too numerous. But I have a list of all the native, actually all the plants in the yard, whether they're native or not, whether deer eat them or not. This is a native wisteria, and it won't destroy things and destroy the forest like a Japanese wisteria will. We actually got the seed pods from Busch Gardens and planted it here, and it hasn't bloomed yet, partially because my husband kind of keeps it cut back a little. Now, the trees are so important. We have pignut hickory, we have white oak, we've got beech, we've got all kinds of native. This is a native wood. It's probably 150 years old. So again, we have dogwoods, and we have other flowering trees around. These trees up here are, sorry to say plain, there are tulip trees, and they grow very fast and they grow very tall, and so some of the other trees have to compete for sun with them. So when a big wind blows one of the big trees down, some of the little trees have a chance to grow. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else I should show you. I've tried to plant I've tried to plant a lot of cover between the stones, and to keep the soil from washing away. Again, violets, the whitewood asters, this is not a native. It's called mazes, but you can step on it. It grows fast. You can move it around, and so I've actually put it a lot of places. This is moss. I've tried to grow moss a lot of places, and I'm actually growing it now in the front yard where the trees have gotten so tall that no grass will grow under. My husband likes grass, but slowly we're taking up the grass and putting up moss because grass doesn't grow under the trees. Okay, I'm gonna go up this way. So this is actually the south side of the house. But between these trees here, we can grow blueberries for the birds, and sometimes I get some for my breakfast, but not many. The birds get most of them. We also have a break in the trees right here. So I have put in the herb garden this year, but some of them are perennial, like the rosemary, and also the sage, and also some of the chives are perennial. Also some lemon. There are a lot of things you can eat. This is actually This is actually a lemon. Tastes like lemon. It's called lemon balm, and it's really a lot like it's in the mint family. It's really delicious. But there are also things that you can eat in our yard too. Let's see. I think I walked through the things that we can eat, but there are a lot of weeds that people think of as weeds that you can eat, like the dandelion. The leaves are really good, but you have to make sure that you haven't put down any pesticides or herbicides on your lawn, because you don't want to hurt yourself. So the dandelions can be eaten, and then lots of other clover can be eaten. Some of the tree flowers can be eaten, like the red bud. So anyway, this we unfortunately have had to put some netting around to save the things that we wanted to save from our childhood. One of them is bee balm. The bees love it, the birds love it, they take the seeds. Supposedly the deer are not supposed to eat it, but they have eaten the flowers in our yard. So we put up this fence. We also have azaleas back here from our childhood, so we wanted to save those. Gradually, I'm trying to put in things that the deer don't eat underneath the azaleas, so that they're not as likely to get into it. This is the Japanese holly, and this is the cypress, the Japanese false cypress behind it. I don't think we'll ever be able to save the azaleas, so probably this is always going to be up. I've got Shasta daisies under here. We have some things have been brought in by the birds. These are black-eyed Susan that haven't come up yet, and those seeds have been dropped, as well as the seeds from early goldenrod up here, and the birds have brought those in. So we just leave the stalks up so that the native birds, the native bees have a way to hide themselves during the winter, and the birds can get the seeds. See, back here we have some wild columbine. The deer, I'm sorry, would eat that if it wasn't behind this is the wild columbine. Let's see, back in this area, I've got some immediate plants. The deer wouldn't eat that, but I'm just trying to expand its area because it'll be a ground cover, and it's a beautiful plant. I love it. Okay, I guess we've been around the whole yard. Let's see. Oh, this
1940.
this is a azalea we wanted to save because it was planted in the 1940s on my husband's property, on my husband's family property, and so we brought a part of it here to plant in our yard. So we don't want the deer to get that either. This is a holly that the deer do eat. It's not, I think it's native, but the deer do eat it. And so, again, the only hollies that I found that the deer don't eat are the native. Let's see, this is, let's see what I've got the names of all these hollies, so I can give you the ones the deer eat and the ones they don't eat, because I've tried to keep track of that. Let's see. Oh, this is Ilex Nellie Stevens. The deer will eat that, but they will not eat the, let's see. Oh dear. I'll have to get you the name so I know exactly which. Oh, the American holly, Ilex opaca. They will not eat that. Okay, so I think this is the end of most of our yard. Come visit because I've got all the plants labeled, and so you can visit and see for yourself and look at all the plant list. Please come visit us. We like to have visitors. And during this time, we will stay 6 feet from you and probably wear a mask. You should probably do the same. Thank you.